Hello, welcome to the channel. Let's go to today's story. So my wife of 25 years old calls her M, me 28 years old, cheated on me with my friend J. We met when I was 21 in another friend's wedding. She was a good one. Friend of the bride and I the groom, and they sat us down at that table so we could stay together. When I first saw her I was completely surprised how beautiful she was, and when she sat down and we started talking we found out we had a lot of things in common that we instantly click. We talked a little, we had dinner and took to the dance floor. We danced and we drink through the night. We're done. Kiss in the middle of the dance floor. And when we push our friends away, the bride and groom came up to us and asked what was going on between us, that we're really excited to play matchmaker. We just shrugged and continued with our night. We left, not exchanging numbers, but about a week later I got a message from her asking me out. Engaged, gave her my number. Of course I said yes, and it became a relationship. The relationship was great, except little arguments. We never really fought, and it was never anything too serious. I eventually proposed to her about 2 years of dating, woo, and we were married less than a year later. We were married just over a year when it all came crashing down on me. Just before our first anniversary there, it was little things that were annoying. She became more cautious with the phone. Girls' nights out became more frequent, and our sex life was almost non-existent. Had brought this up in several occasions, but it was discarded, and that I'm letting my insecurities get to me. Would she go on as if what I felt and tried to communicate no matter to her? So I got colder and colder. I stopped kissing you goodbye while leave for work, and unless it was something important we barely spoke. One night while she was sleeping I took her phone and laptop and I swiped through it. Text, emails and messaging apps, and nothing found. And reading stories here I checked her car, got the keys and looked in her car and found the second phone. I knew in that instant what it was going on, but I wanted all the evidence, because when I call her I didn't want to she say something like she had just happened once or something stupid like that. I looked through the phone and found just a number. I read though each message that I connected the phone to mine computer and printed out all the messages in each photo and spent the night researching divorce lawyers. I've been through hours of my day in my home office reading biographies of lawyers, and I found one which I liked and sent him an email. But how? It was a Saturday, he wasn't in the office. So I wanted to know who the guy was, so I picked up my phone and dialed the number I wanted to call and pretend I'm a Spectre. Because who doesn't have Spectrum? But Jay's contact popped up. I took a minute to add 2 and 2, but when I did I exploded. I was yelling and cussing in my office, and my wife opened the door to check me, but when I see her I told her to get it the F left. She closed the door and went to our room. I had never cursed in mine wife or raised my voice above normal volume all day. I never left my office. I was just silently furious just looking at the wall. I called one of my fiancé friends of marriage and tell him that I need goes out for a drink and asks if he's coming with me. He must have heard something in my voice because he asked if I was okay. I told him I wasn't and I really need a drink. So without a word I took all the printouts and left to go to the bar. I arrived first and ordered 4 shots of Jack and a beer. I was on my last shot when my friend Column T arrived and asked what's going on. I told him directly that M is cheating on him. Gave me sympathy and I asked if he wanted to know with whom and told him. It was Jay. He got visibly irritated. He was the one who introduced me to Jay. And all he could say was I'm sorry and that's it. Jay and I were never very close. We wouldn't ask each other out, but if we meet at a meeting, we were friendly. I told T don't mention it. This for anyone as I had just found out. And I haven't even talked to him or a lawyer, but I asked him not to tell his wife, and if she asked what was wrong with me, to say I'm having trouble work. He agreed. We drank and talked for most of the day. Night, so I called an Uber and went home around 3 a.m. It was the first time I looked at my phone since I called T, and there was missed calls, loads of texts, all from M, wondering where I was, when I would be home, and if I was fine. I got home and went to bed. She followed shortly after, asking what it is been wrong with me. I told her to leave me alone and wanted to sleep. She kept pestering me, eventually snapped and screamed, stop, I'm trying. Sleep goes away. The next morning I got an email of the lawyer asking to meet later in the day, and I confirmed and prepared myself. For my day I went down to leave, and EM made breakfast, asking to talk. I made a little plate and sat her down. She started saying I've been acting different and talking about how I changed, and she wants to know why. I said her work has been stressful and soon it would all be over. I finished and told her that I have to go. I went to my office and did a countdown, the minutes to go to meet the lawyer. When I left, I told my assistant I'm leaving to lunch with a client. My wife would go, calls my work sometimes and leaves. The meeting with the lawyer went well, and handed over all that I had gathered. She and the lawyer told me, well, I am sorry for everything that's been going on, but I'm glad you gathered all this information. You see, we live in a state of guilt, so your wife has no claim on most of your money. I told him I didn't even think about that. I was thinking I have one divorce, or as soon as possible. He has to keep the evidence, but I said, I prefer you just make copies. How I didn't tell my wife I knew yet, and I don't want to hear her excuses from her. He agreed and had his assistant make copies. I asked when will it be served with papers. He told me about 2 weeks. I then thanked you and left. I went home to confront my wife. When arrived, she wasn't home, so I called her. No answer. I called again, no answer. I texted her, I don't give a fuck if you are writing Jay, now get home, we need keep it down. And behold, she calls me no minute later asking what I was talking about. About all I told her was get home now. She arrives about 15 minutes later, and I told her, wow, look, that 15 minutes is approximately the same distance between here and Jay, is not. She looked at me dumbfounded. I gave her a minute to pull herself together, but she was just staring to me, and I said, well, nothing to tell her. Tried to deny and enlighten me, and I let him. She continues. She struggled and started insulting me. I slammed my fist on the table to close her and pulled the evidence first and showed it to the side and said, look at this mountain of things I gathered in you. So I showed her each one. Print each time. She then tells me to stopped and started crying. She tried apologizes and says he loved me. Said, honey, what happened to that energy you had before? You were so adamant, degrading and insulting me just a minute ago. She tried to hand me up and tell me how sorry she is. I held out my hand and said, she don't touch me. She says, well, let's go the room and everything I like. Looked her deeply in her eyes and told her, darling, I will never touch you again. You want to know who else has these photos and messages? My lawyer. I am. Divorce you now. Grab a bag, gather your clothes and get the F out of my house. That was 3 days ago and I haven't heard from her. And so our story for today comes to an end. Don't forget to turn on the notification bell, like her and subscribe to the channel. Until the next video.